Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Jocelyn Hadakan, and I'm the Manager Planning and Mobilization in IATA based in Geneva. And thank you so much for joining us on this session. I will be facilitating this webcast this afternoon. And for logistics purposes, I just would like to highlight a few things, please. This session is recorded and will be sent out to all participating airlines, including those that were invited but wasn't able to attend. I will also send a Q&A document to all, and this Q&A document are from today's sessions and the other sessions as well. If you have any question, you have the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to type on your question, and we will read them as they come. Please note that the session for today is intended for airlines that will be impacted by the next waves of implementation for NewGen ISS and TIP. So without further ado, I'll give you now to Christian Caspo, who is the manager for industry adoption of NewGen ISS.
Okay, now I'm unmuted, I think. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Caspo, and I'm based in Madrid. So thank you very much for your attention. We're gonna go through this agenda today, which is an overview of NewGen ISS. Then I'm gonna give you more details of the different areas of NewGen ISS, which are accreditation models, risk management, global default insurance, and IATA Easy Pay. Then we're gonna have a look at transparency in payments and airline readiness, so what you need to consider, and then we'll briefly touch on next steps and additional information. So let's get started. When we speak about a NewGen ISS, we're actually talking about the 4 different components of the program, which are agency accreditation models, where we're going from 1 model today to 3 options for the agencies. The enhanced risk management, and normally we speak about the remittance holding capacity, and I will give you more explanation about that as well. IATA Easy Pay, which is a new form of payment that is in addition to cash and credit card, where agency needs to have money available at ticket issuance. And the global default insurance, another option for agencies in terms of financial securities. So basically, when we say NewGen ISS, we're talking about these 4 different areas. So on accreditation models, in the old resolution, there's only 1 option for accreditation, so a standard process. And this is applied both to very, very small agencies and to very, very large agencies. But with NewGen ISS, we are providing 3 different options, and it's the agency that selects which option is best for their own business. If the agency doesn't make a decision, they will automatically be converted to the standard accreditation when we migrate to the NewGen ISS. And for Go Standard, those agencies will have access to cash as form of payment and credit card as form of payment, just as today. But they will also have access to IATA Easy Pay, which is a new form of payment. And in addition to this, they will no longer have unlimited access to cash. As today, once an agency becomes accredited and they get access to cash as form of payment, there's no upper limit on how much tickets they can issue in cash. But with remittance holding capacity, we can put a maximum capacity. An agency can decide to go to Go Light, and for Go Light, those agencies will not have access to form of payment cash, so only credit card and Easy Pay. And because they don't have access to cash, there will not be any need for any financial assessment or financial security. We would only request financial security for ADMs up to $5,000. If it's above $5,000 in a quarter, we'll ask for additional financial security. And for Go Global, this is for agencies that today operate in many BSPs, where they need to become accredited in each and every BSP. So as a Go Global, the agency is the parent entity that will become accredited, and they will cover all the locations, and they will take legal and financial responsibility for all the locations. And they do quarterly assessments instead of yearly assessments. And what's important is, of course, it's always the airline that decides on the ticketing authority. So it's still you as an airline that decides which agency you want to work with. Any questions on accreditation models? Okay.
None so far.
So on risk management, as previously mentioned, in the older solution, once an agency becomes accredited and they have access to cash, there's unlimited access to that. And with NewGen ISS, we will be able to reduce the risk of cash exposure for airlines. We're also going from a 24 hours blind spot, because now we're waiting for 24 hours until we get the sales data from the GDSs. And we're going to be able to receive real-time sales monitoring from the GDSs, so that we can monitor the sales activity from the agencies. And with Easy Pay, we will also be able to offer a safe form of payment that is safer than credit card and safer than cash. So the remittance holding capacity, how it works. Now, if you look at this slide, you have the dark blue staples, which is the previous period sales of cash. So this only illustrates cash sales. And the light blue, which is the current period sales of cash. On day 3, we have the remittance date. That is when the agency pays off their sales from the previous period. And then on day 3, 4, 5, 6, they continue having cash sales. And on day 6, the blue staples is reaching that dotted line. So in this case, the dotted line is the remittance holding capacity. What happens here is that the IATA will send a notification to the GDSs to restrict form of payment cash. We don't restrict ticketing authority, but we do restrict ticketing form of payment cash. So if the agency wants to continue selling, they can use IATA Easy Pay as an example, or credit card, or make an advanced payment to the BSP. And they can also, of course, amend their financial security. Easy Pay can, of course, be used beforehand as well. They don't need to wait until they reach the remittance holding capacity. They can use Easy Pay anytime they want. But that is also why Easy Pay is so important to have available, because we must be able to offer an agency an option to continue selling if they reach the RHC. So we don't want to impact their business. We're also changing the concept of irregularities. So today, an irregularity is, for example, an agency don't provide the financial security on time. That's an irregularity. But it's also an irregularity if the agency is paying the yearly fee to IATA late. So if they get 2 irregularities, they become technically suspended and the ticketing authority is withdrawn, and then they will need to then request this again. So this is quite cumbersome and annoying for everyone involved. So instead, we're going to have risk events and administrative events. And the administrative non-compliance events are, for example, if an agency paid late the accreditation fee. Now, this will no longer have such an impact on the agency as it had before. Risk events, which are related to their agency's financial standing and ability to pay, these will have obviously an impact on the history of the agency. We will have the different types of risk events, and they will stay in the history of the agency in different periods, depending on the severity. So, for example, if the agency have defaulted and then become reinstated, this will stay in their history for 2 years. If there's a new agency entering the BSP, that will also be 2 years in the history of the agency, which means that they will automatically fail the risk assessment. And some events, like failure to provide financial security, that stays for 1 year. And why we're doing this? Because we are still doing the financial reviews, what we're doing today, and then we have the risk history assessment, which is what I explained previously. So if an agency wants to become status A, they must pass both the review and the risk history. And if they become A, then their remittance holding capacity will be equal to the formula that we have in the resolution. They will not need to provide a financial security, only if it's mandatory by the local financial criteria. Now, if they fail the risk history or the financial review, they become B, and then they must provide a financial security. And if they fail both, they became C, and then their RHC will no longer be as the formula, but they will be equal to net financial security. And if the BSP has several frequencies, the agency must remit to the most frequent one. Airlines will be able to see the different risk status and changes in that through the e-bulletin, but also through the customer portal where you can do a search on agency code. Any questions on the risk status?
Not so far.
So how do we calculate the remittance holding capacity? Because this is calculated individually for each agency. So for A and B agencies, we have a formula that we will look at the number of days in the reporting period in that BSP, plus the number of days in the remittance period. We also take the average daily BSP cash turnover from the 3 highest period, and we look back to the 12 latest months, and then multiply that with 100. So this calculation is applicable to A and B, but for C, it doesn't apply because it's equal to their financial security. If we look at a more concrete example, so this is an agency that where the 3 highest periods for the previous 12 months was 50,000, 50,000, and 75,000. So this is the 3 highest periods. Now, and this one is a weekly BSP. So we take these 50 plus 50 plus 75, and then we divide that with 21 days because there's 3 periods and each period is 7 days. And then we get a daily turnover of 8,333. And in this BSP, after this weekly period has ended, the agency has 5 days to pay that amount. So the remittance period is 7 days, and the reporting period is 7 days, and the remittance period is 5 days, so 12 in total. So in this case, we take 12 multiplied with 8,333 multiplied with 2, which is 100%. And in this case, the remittance holding capacity would be almost 200,000. So if this agency would have cash sales that reaches above, well, they cannot actually go above this amount. So if they reaches this amount, we inform the GDSs to restrict phone payment cash until they have paid it down again. Any questions on the formula? Okay, we move forward to global default insurance, but you can always send the questions anyways if you come up with any. So the global default insurance is just an additional option, additional choice for the agencies. And it's optional, of course. It's voluntary for them. It doesn't replace any of the current options they have. And it's provided by Euler Hermes. And the brokers are Aon and March, which are quite familiar to many. And for the agencies, of course, because this is voluntary and they can request quotes online, they can request a quote and then they can compare it with their current options. And then they will decide which option is best for them. And the good thing here is also that there's no collateral required, because in many markets, if an agency wants a bank guarantee, they need to put a deposit with the bank, or they need to put their house as a collateral or something like that. With the GDI, there's no collateral required. And for the airlines, we can be more certain that this is a strong and reliable provider. And if there is agency default, that we can receive the claim. Because there are situations where we do have bank guarantees collected, and then when we want to claim them, we're not able to. Any questions, GDI? So on IATA EasyPay, this is as well voluntary to use, pay-as-you-go online wallet. So pay-as-you-go means that money must be available on the account at ticket issuance. And we're going to implement this globally. And here, agencies cannot do chargebacks on the transactions. And at ticket issuance, we block the money immediately on the account. We must have EasyPay available in a BSP before we can implement the remittance holding capacity, because we must be able to offer the agencies a possibility to continue selling if they reach RHC. And we'll be able to accelerate the cash flow, so to settle it to you much faster. And it has a fixed fee per transaction of 53 cents. EasyPay is an available form of payment for all the 3 models of accreditation. And for Go Light agencies, they will not have access to cash, so EasyPay will be specifically important for them. So if you look at the benefits for the travel agencies, with EasyPay, it gives them access to these new accreditation models, specifically Go Light. It will also help them to reduce their financial securities if they want to do so by using EasyPay. It's voluntary for them to use. And we're also looking into providing different funding alternatives. So as of today, we only have bank transfer funding, but we're looking into having other options in the future. And it doesn't cost them anything to have the account, to maintain the account, or to issue tickets with this account. So they can have the account on standby if they want to do so as well. For airlines, we will settle the money to the airline's bank account 2 to 4 days after the ticket has been issued. If you use a local bank account in the BSP, if you use ICCS, then we follow the ICCS cycle. Cost effective, so this is a fixed fee per transaction, it's not percentage based. This was a requirement from the airlines previously of 53 cents. A secure payment option, it's going to be globally available, and it enables the BSP to become safer. So what is an IEP number, or IATA EasyPay number? Because this number must be used by the agency to issue the ticket on the GDS. So it's a 15 or 16-digit number. So it depends if we use a MasterCard BIN number or if we use an UATP BIN number. For each booking, a unique number must be used. And as you can see on this print screen, we use the same logarithm as a MasterCard or UATP number with expiry date. So how does it work, actually, the ticketing process? The agency goes online on the IATA custom portal and open an account online. Once the account is open, and of course, here we follow the local AML and KYC procedures, so anti-money laundering procedures, and know your customer. Once the account is open, the agency can do a bank transfer to put money in the account. Then they request this IEP number from the portal. They insert it in the GDS, and the GDS sends an authorization message back to the IATA EasyPay system. If there's money on the account, we block the money instantly, and we send back an approval code to the GDS, and the ticket has been issued. So from an agency perspective, it follows very similar to a credit card ticketing process. IATA then, BSP, will settle to the airline. So from an airline perspective, this follows a cash process. And because it's a cash process, it's not the credit card acquirer of the airline that collects the money. It's the IATA BSP that sends the money to you. So from an agency perspective, before they issue tickets, they should go to BSP link and verify that the airline accepts EasyPay. Then they enter the form of payment and the EasyPay number, expiry date, and then the authorization should go through here if they have money on the account. Now, for an airline, the tickets will be issued on the GDS as CCEP or EP. So this depends on the different GDSs and which code they are creating. So this is the standard solution we're talking about here. Once the tickets are issued, the GDSs will send this information to IATA Data Processing Center. We process all this information and we send it to the airlines in the billing reports and the hot files. And because we have two different options on the GDSs, which is CCEP or EP, airlines normally don't want to have two options. They want to have one option for EasyPay transactions. So airlines decide if they want to have EasyPay reported as CCEP or EP. And this will normally depend on who is your revenue accounting provider and what they are, what they have developed. Because we have around 100 airlines today ready with EasyPay, and these airlines are using different revenue accounting providers that are already ready. So if you are not ready today, probably your revenue accounting provider is ready for other airlines and have decided on CCP or EP. If you look at the GDSs, now Amadeus is ready with CCP. Airlines need to activate CCP with Amadeus. So this is not something IATA does for you. So you need to go to Amadeus and activate CCP with them. Travelport and Sabre are not ready yet. So if a ticket will be issued for EasyPay, the agency would use just a regular credit card form of payment. And with Fairlogic and TravelSky, they're working on having EP ready. If you look at this, when we write XX, that stands for the card scheme provider. So for example, if a MasterCard is used, it would be, for Travelport, it would be CCCA. So XX stands for the card scheme. So what does this mean for the airline? So if a ticket is issued as a credit card on the GDS, the same process will apply. DPC will receive it. We will identify this number because we have a dedicated BIN number for EasyPay, and we will still provide it to you as either CCP or EP. So it doesn't matter how the ticket was issued on the GDS, you will always receive the same reporting on your hot file. And again, it's important to know that these transactions should not be sent to your credit card acquirer. So if you're using the CSI file from IATA, we will automatically remove EasyPay transactions from your CSI file. If you don't use the CSI file, if you have your own internal processes, then you should ensure that the EasyPay transactions are not included in the file you send to your credit card acquirer. Any questions on IATA EasyPay?
None so far.
Not so far. Okay. So we're now going to have a look at transparency in payments. So we can see that there's been an increased use of agencies' own cards or agencies' vans, virtual account numbers, in the last few years. Airlines have come back to IATA and have complained generally about the increased credit card costs and the merchant fees. The thing is that many airlines are kind of blind of what kind of products are behind these credit card transactions. So it's difficult to identify if the credit card comes from a customer, or if this is a corporate card, or if this is an agency-owned card. And the resolution was also prohibiting agencies from using their own cards. So what was lacking was more transparency on this kind of payment. So the objective with TIP is to provide more transparency and more control for the airlines. So based on airlines coming to IATA, in 2016, we conducted a analysis, we took MasterCard wholesale cards. So this is only based on some MasterCard numbers, not all of them, of course. And we don't include Visa or Amex or anything else. And these are VANs, so virtual account numbers, so basically agency-owned cards. And in 2016, the amount was $3.6 billion in sales of these cards in these specific markets. Now, 1 year later, we did the same analysis with the same in the same countries, and we can see that it was an increase of 33%, so 4.8 billion. And what's interesting here is that we can see that these kind of products are evolving into new markets. So if you look at Russia, in 2016, there were 0, and in 2017, it was 125 million. In Brazil was 0, and then 20 million, etc. So we can see that there's been, as well in Japan, went from 144 to 461. So looking into this, we can see that there has been a big increase, and we see that for every year, new markets are showing up. So how does actually this work? So we all know that a regular credit card transaction is when the customer pays with his credit card, the agency facilitates that by using the merchant agreement of the airline, but it's the airline that is collecting the money from the passenger. So the agency never touches this money, but just facilitates the purchase. If the agency instead is the merchant of record of this payment, they are collecting this money from the passenger, then they should transfer that as a cash payment. So these are the two forms of payment, cash and credit card, in the BSP. And what is difficult to see is that if the agency has been collecting as a merchant of record from the customer, if they then later on, instead of sending it as cash, have used their own card. So that is sort of the black box that airlines cannot see. So instead, we want this to be more transparent so that the agency can continue using cash, of course, or easy pay, or any other alternative transfer method that is agreed with the airline. So the principle of transparency in payment is that the providers that are providing this kind of product should enlist them and enroll the product, so that we have more visibility of what this product is about. Then the airlines can give individual consents for each product. And then we would have 2 steps of validation. So one is the upfront validation, where we validate a ticket issuance. Now this doesn't exist today because we're pending on the GDSs to help us with that. And then the post-ticketing monitoring, we will be monitoring all the reports after tickets have been issued. So the post-ticketing monitoring is something that exists today, but not the upfront validation. If there's any kind of disagreement between airlines and agencies, then that will be managed on a bilateral basis. So the resolution 890 was amended in the last PACON, and it does now allow agencies to use their own cards or any other alternative, but only if the airline gives its consent to this. So this is effective since 1st of March this year. And why we're mentioning this is that you might have received or will receive queries from agencies where they request to use their own cards. And then it's of course up to you what you decide on that. So as an airline, we recommend that you consider which form of payment that you want to accept in each country, which forms of payment that you think you want to promote or not promote, Will you manage this centrally or on a BSP per BSP market level? And who will manage this, centrally or market level? So these are things we think you should consider. And you can access BSP link depending on, you have either the multi-country user or single country user. So the multi-country user can access all the BSPs and receive reports from all of them. And the single country user can only receive reports for that specific BSP. So it's up to you as an airline to have this setup done. And we are providing monthly reports for those countries that have been migrated to TIP. So we have one report that shows the enrolled products and which the airlines have given consent to, one with enrolled products that the airlines have not given consent to. So this is a bit premature because we are still in the process of having products enrolled, so this will come more and more with time. But we also have one report with unenrolled products. So for example, the chart I showed you before with different countries, those are unenrolled products, and where we flag them as potentially non-compliant transactions. So this is provided monthly through BSP link and will be available in PDF and CSV formats. And this is a bit how that report will look like. It shows the agency, it shows the transactions, and then you can make a judgment of how you want to manage this. Any questions on TIP?
So far, so good.
Okay, no questions. So on airline readiness, so we're going to have a look at the implementation, technical readiness, strategic consideration, and communication. So this is just areas for your consideration. And well, also, before we go into that, this is also the market rollout for what has been gone live today and for NewGen ISS, but also for TIP. So you can see a list of several countries, and here you have a more detailed list of more countries. And these countries are changing sometimes. So we always go to the PSG and the Passenger Steering Conference, and we always ask for their approval for going live. So sometimes countries are moved. Now, when it comes to the implementation, we recommend that an airline has a designated champion within the headquarters. And it's important to have one point of contact because, as you know, there are many people working in your airline, and it's difficult to share information with everyone. So if we have one point of contact, we can ensure that all relevant information and updates are provided. The champion should have support from management so that they're able to drive this forward. And should also be responsible to inform the different impacted departments and the local offices. So if you don't have a champion, you should discuss this internally. On a technical side, it's important that you have your revenue accounting provider and your account receivable ready, because you will receive hot files with new codes, and you need to be able to reconcile those. And as mentioned before, you have two options on the hot file, CCP or EP. You should speak with your revenue accounting provider and then inform IATA which option you prefer. Also, you should check with your PSS or your ETS or e-ticketing server if they validate the form payment. So some PSS, they validate form payment and some do not. So if the PSS doesn't validate the form of payment, then it really doesn't matter. There's no impact. If they do validate the form of payment, then we probably need to have a discussion with them to see what they need to do. And then you can contact IATA and we can support you. And we also would like to have, if you haven't already, provide us with your estimations of your readiness state. Because when we do all these go live activities, we always have a look at airlines ready and to ensure that we have sufficient airlines ready in the country. And especially if you're an airline and this is your home market, we really count on you to be ready before going live. On the strategic readiness, again, IATA EasyPay is an enabler of the remittances holding capacity. So to be able to make the BSP safer and to mitigate the current risk, we must have EasyPay implemented first. And if we take into account all the different payment methods that exist, we also recommend that you have an overall payment strategy. Then you can also consider the different accreditation models, for example, Go Light accreditation, etc. Will you have a specific strategy for those, or will you have the same strategy for all? How will the risk management, will that have any kind of impact? And in case an airline decides to opt out because it is voluntary, we recommend that you consider any kind of impact. For example, you might have a commercial impact for agencies that are under Go Light, that don't have access to cash, and they rely on issuing an EasyPay. So if you don't accept EasyPay, you might not be able to get sales from agencies. And if an agency is managing their RHC or have reached the RHC, they will not be able to issue on your airline, potentially. So take that into consideration. And then on communication. So once you have made your decisions, so once you have taken those internal decisions, we recommend that you communicate that to your agencies so that they know what policy is applied to you. Because IATA, we are not communicating on airline policies. And especially in your home markets, we also recommend that you help to spread the word of NewGen ISS, at least so that the agencies knows where to find more information. So for example, by sharing a link to NewGen, etc., so that we can ensure that all the agencies are aware of NewGen ISS. Any questions on the airline readiness?
No.
Okay. So next steps, do you want to take this, Jojo, a moment?
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much again for joining us for this call. And after this call, you will receive all the supporting documents for NewGen ISS from our local offices that actually invited you to be joining this webinar. And together with that supporting documents are the Q&A documents, readiness guides, even the recording of this session. And the Q&A documents, as I mentioned earlier, is that it will include all the sessions that we have so far for this particular wave. And most importantly is that they will also provide you a link to a survey, and the survey is mainly focusing on the status of the airline readiness for NewGen ISS and for TIP. And it is really very important for IATA to know the status of the airline in terms of these initiatives, because of the wealth of experience that we have already with dealing with airlines and providers that have already gone through the readiness that some of you might only be going through now, is that we will be able to support you more if we know the status and the providers that you're dealing with. So I highly encourage you to please update that survey as soon as possible, as soon as you receive it from the local offices. And again, you have my email address and also your local offices. So feel free to reach out to us even after this webcast.
And also, there are links where you can find more information and read on your own, both for NewGen ISS and for transparency in payments. Are there any last questions before we end the session?
Good. Thank you so much for joining this call, and have a good day to everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.